Today we are going to talk about the principle of balance. We're going to look at how we can take a simple photograph and create a kaleidoscope image from that simple photograph using symmetrical balance. So for example, taking this picture of this bridge, but then turning it into a kaleidoscope image, right? So this is an example of how one image can present several solutions and several different compositions using this kaleidoscope technique. So what we're going to do first is we're going to open up Photoshop. Once you have Photoshop open, you're going to choose Create New. We're going to make sure to give it a title. And then we're going to come over here and set up our artwork. Make sure that you're using inches. For this project, we're just going to choose 8 by 10 because that's an easy to print, easy to mat size. For the resolution, make sure to type 300. And for the color mode, choose CMYK. And again, 300 and CMYK are the best resolution and color mode to use if you might be printing this artwork later. Go ahead and then click Create. So now we've got our 8 by 10 artwork. However, we want to go ahead and set this up before we start bringing in our photograph. To do that, what you're going to do is you're going to come over to this very top bar and choose View. Now, I already have mine selected, but I'm just going to uncheck it so that you can see what I mean. So you're going to come down to Rulers, and there's probably no check mark by it. All you have to do is click. And now you can see that rulers will appear at the top and side of your canvas. I already have my ruler set up for inches. However, if yours has crazy numbers like 1,000, 2,000, etc., your ruler might be in pixels. All you have to do is come and hover inside of the ruler and double click, and this preferences window will open. You can change the rulers to inches. And this just makes it a little bit easier to find the halfway. So go ahead and click OK. The other thing you want to check is View and make sure that Snap is also selected. Once you have those two set up, let's go ahead and look at the toolbar. Over on the left-hand side of the toolbar, the first tool that you see is called the Move tool. The shortcut for that is V. The tool underneath that is the rectangular marquee tool. The shortcut for that is M. These are the only two tools that we will be using for this project. So let's start by using the Move tool. Then we're going to go ahead and we're going to drag some guidelines in. So hover on top of the ruler, inside of the ruler, then click and drag down. My canvas is 8 by 10 inches, so I'm going to drag this to 5, which is halfway, and I'm going to do the same for the sidebar. I'm going to click inside the ruler and drag my guideline out to 4 inches, which marks halfway. And now my artwork is divided into 4 equal quadrants. We are ready to go ahead and add our photo now. So go ahead into Finder and find where you have saved the image that you would like to work with. I am going to, again, choose this bridge photo. So I'm going to take this, and all you have to do is drag it into Photoshop. You will see that when it shows up, it will have a blue X in the middle and also these white squares all around the outside edge. That means it's in transform mode, which means that we can move the photo and also make it bigger if we want. So the key thing to think about is only look at this top left quadrant and what is visible. Right now there's this white stripe. My photo is not completely filling this quadrant, so I know that I need to make the photo larger. To increase the size of your photo, all you have to do is drag down from one of the corners. Your picture may look a little bit pixelated. That's only because it hasn't been fully placed yet, so don't get worried. I'm going to keep moving this over until I have it in a position that I like. Another thing that you could do if you want your image to be more dynamic, if you wanted to add a diagonal, you can hover outside of the corner until you see a curved two-ended arrow. And then you can click and rotate your image. Now this might create some white space, in which case you need to, again, move your photo until this quadrant is completely covered with your photo. I'm going to go ahead and make my photo such that these two strong lines are originating from the center point. Once you have your photo filling that entire top left quadrant in the way that you like, again, moving the photo, rotating the photo, or making the photo larger or smaller, to release the transformation mode, all you do is hit return. And now those corners have disappeared. Okay, our next step is to make a selection of only that quadrant because we don't want to see what's happening in all of these other areas. So we're going to use, you guessed it, the rectangular marquee tool, that second tool that we talked about using. The shortcut for that is M. Because we chose snap, it should easily snap to the boundaries of your selection. You know that you have made a selection when you see what's called marching ants, or kind of a moving black and white dotted line. Now, if you accidentally make your selection incorrectly, don't worry. All you have to do is hit Command D to deselect, and then just start over. Once you have your selection completed, we're going to come over here to our layers panel that's on the bottom right. If you do find that you don't see a layers panel, fear not. All you have to do is come to this top bar and choose Window, Workspace, Reset Essentials. And then your layers panel will reappear. At this point, you should have two layers, your background layer and your photo layer. Make sure that you have the photo layer selected and not the background layer. All you have to do is simply click in this bar. So, assuming you have your photo layer selected, you've got your marching ants. Now what we're going to do is hit the shortcut Command with one hand and J with your other hand. So Command J at the same time. It doesn't look like anything has happened, but if you come over to the layers panel, you will see that it has created a new layer. You should now have 3 layers. These little eyeballs on the side means that you can turn the visibility on and off for a layer. We don't want this original layer visible, so turn that middle layer off. Now all we see is the photo in this top left quadrant. In order to make our kaleidoscope image, however, we need to make a copy of this layer. We're going to use the same shortcut that we just used, Command J, to make a copy of this layer. Again, it's really important to make sure you're on the right layer, so make sure that you are on the topmost layer before you hit Command J. As you can see, it's created a new layer in my layers panel. Now what we need to do is transform this layer so that we can reflect it or mirror it to the other side. The shortcut for this is Command T. Again, T for transform. So hit Command T, and again, those squares that we saw at the beginning have reappeared on the edges of your image. However, our options haven't shown up yet. So to get the transform options to appear, you hit Control, right click, and we're going to choose Flip Horizontal. Just like we did before, to release the transformation, all you do is hit Return. But now we need to move it to the other side. Uh-oh, it didn't work. Why not? I'm on the wrong tool. Does anyone remember how to deselect? You would use Command D, and then just go ahead and choose your Move tool. Now we're going to go ahead and click and hold Shift as we drag this layer to the side. Holding Shift allows us to move it while keeping it vertically aligned. So now we have two mirrored images. The next step is to make a copy of these two layers and flip them to the bottom. So let's come back to our layers panel. We have the top layer selected. In order to select two layers at the same time, you need to hold Shift while you click on the second layer. Now we've got both layers selected. We first need to make a copy. The same shortcut as before, Command J. And then to transform, Command T. To make the transform options appear, hit Control, right click. But this time we want to choose Flip Vertical. And the last step is to hold Shift and drag these two layers down until it snaps in the middle. When you have the layer as you want them, you hit Return to release the transformation. So we've got our kaleidoscope image. Now you can just play if you want a little bit. The image is complete, but if you want to change the colors, change the hue or saturation, you can come down in your layers panel to what is called an adjustment layer. So before you click that, make sure that you have the top layer selected, so that way any adjustments will go above this layer and affect all the layers below it. So we're going to hit adjustment layer, and let's try levels to start. So this is called a histogram. Generally speaking, with levels, you want the black triangle to be at the start of your histogram and the white at the start of your histogram in order to correct a photograph. However, since I want this artwork to be a little bit more dynamic, I'm not so concerned with realism, you can play with these and just see what kind of effects that you get. I like the way that the levels sort of flattens out the color in this image because I think it makes it look a little bit more abstract. So I'm going to play with the levels a little bit. And then when you're done, you can hit these little arrows and the properties will go away. That said, if you change your mind and you want to go back and edit those levels some more, all you have to do is double click on the icon next to levels. And then your properties reappear and you can re-edit or change as needed. Another adjustment layer that can be fun for this project is to play with hue saturation. If you wanted it to be black and white, you would bring saturation all the way down. I don't want it to be black and white, but just so that you know, that's an option. I'm going to change this back to 0 and leave it at that. For hue, you can see that this changes the overall hue of the artwork. So you can play with this. You can also, under master, choose a different color. So for example, if I choose yellow, and then I decrease the saturation, everything that is yellow has now become black and white. You could also change the hue of only the yellow areas. I don't think I want to do this because I like the yellow, but I just want to let you know it's there. Another option that can be fun is color balance. And midtones, it will automatically go to midtones, but you could also choose the shadows and the highlights. So for example, if I chose midtones and I move it to more cyan, you can see that it's affecting the sky in the background. If you want to see what it looks like with or without, all you do is turn this eyeball on and then off, and you can see the difference that that color balance layer makes. And again, just like with levels, if you want to go back and edit that some more, all you do is double click that icon. And you can play with the colors until you get something that you really like. You don't have to do this. This is something that is just sort of a fun extra. Once you have completed all of your adjustments, go ahead and save your file, Command S. If these options don't appear for you, this little arrow right here, you can click, and then you can choose where on your computer you would like to save your file. Go ahead and save it as a PSD. PSD is short for a Photoshop format. So again, format would be Photoshop. Click. You make sure that layers is selected and click save. And OK. This way, you're keeping your Photoshop file so that you can always come back and re-edit it later. In addition to your Photoshop file, I want you to save this as a PDF. Oftentimes they're saved as a JPEG, but I want you to save them as a PDF because that is the format that our printer wants to use so that I can print these for you and for our art show. So to do that, you would click File, Save As, and under Format, choose Photoshop PDF. We do not need to save the layers. Click Save. Uncheck Preserve Photoshop editing capabilities because we won't need that for printing either. And then choose Save PDF. And voila, you're done.